This video is sponsored by Invideo AI. November 13th, 1942. Racing through intense pouring rain squalls towards Guadalcanal at the head of a troop convoy, the Japanese fast battleship Hiei is on its way to snatch the island back from Allied control. On Hiei's bridge, Vice Admiral Hiroaki Abe gives a wry smile. He's certain this will send the Allies running. But as Hiei nears Guadalcanal, in the darkness is revealed an alarming sight. American warships are lying in wait. Shaking the surprise, a tense standoff sets in, neither side wanting to give away its position in the night. 20 minutes turn into a grueling marathon of suspense, until finally, Abe can bear it no longer. Ordering his crew to turn on Hiei searchlights, he receives another shock. The enemy is just 3,000 yards away. For a battleship's main guns, almost point-blank range. Even worse, those guns are aimed straight at Abe's bridge. In the vast oceans of content creation, a new flagship has emerged, Invideo AI v3. This powerful update allows you to take your AI video creation to new horizons. Picture this: you're at the helm of your own media battleship, but instead of having to rely on a crew of hundreds, you have one incredibly powerful AI at your command. That's Invideo AI v3. Your first mate, your navigator, and your entire film production team rolled into one. What sets Invideo AI v3 apart in the flotilla of video tools? It's not just about editing existing footage. It's about generating entire productions from the keel up in a way that blows the competition out of the water. With just a few simple text prompts, you can launch broadcast-ready, full-length videos on any topic under the sun. Let's dive into a demonstration. We tasked Invideo AI v3 with creating a short video about the 10 most incredible wonders of India and their history. Here's what surfaced in just minutes. You can see why this tool is making big waves in the world of AI video. But if creating educational content doesn't float your boat, there are plenty of other video genres, which Invideo AI v3 dominates with flying colors. Whether it's B-roll style footage or social media reels, this versatile tool offers a whole ocean of possibilities. Crucially, unlike other AI video tools, Invideo AI v3 isn't just a concept floating in the distance. It's going to be available in just a few weeks for you to set sail on your voyage of creative discovery. Use the link in the description to get on board with Invideo AI's current version today. Paid plans start at $20 a month, and you can even receive double the video creation minutes in your first month with our special code, DARKSEAS50. When it comes to AI video, you no longer have to feel lost at sea. Let Invideo AI steer your course to domination. In 1910, tensions were rising in the Pacific. Japan, seeking to establish itself as a dominant force at sea, passed an ambitious naval emergency expansion bill. This plan called for the construction of 8 battleships and 8 armored cruisers, one of which would be Hiei. Laid down on November 4th, 1911, at the Yokosuka Naval Arsenal, Hiei was the second of 4 Kongo-class cruisers. These ships represented a significant advance in Japanese naval capabilities. While the nation's previous capital ships had been built to match rival navies, the Kongo-class was designed to outclass them. To achieve this goal, Japan turned to British expertise. Naval architect George Thurston of the renowned Vickers shipyard was commissioned to design these new warships. The resulting class blurred the line between battleship and battlecruiser, combining heavy armament with high speed. Hiei measured 728 feet, about 50% longer than the 485-foot Ibuki class that preceded it. This extra length, combined with powerful turbine engines, allowed Hiei to reach up to 30 knots. In contrast, most contemporary battleships, like USS New York and USS Texas, could manage only 21 knots. Hiei was fast enough to outmaneuver enemy battleships and quickly respond to threats across the vast Pacific. The battleship's primary armament consisted of 8 14-inch guns mounted in 4 twin turrets. These weapons could hurl 1,485-pound shells over 23 miles, outranging most contemporary naval guns. Hiei also carried 16 6-inch guns for defense against smaller ships, along with 8 3-inch guns for anti-aircraft protection. Hiei was also fitted with 8 submerged 21-inch torpedo tubes, a feature uncommon in capital ships of other navies. This was a nod to Japanese naval doctrine, which emphasized kantai kessen, or decisive battle, the idea that there would be one crucial confrontation that would decide any war at sea, and which would therefore require each ship to have maximum offensive capability. Commissioned on August 4, 1914, Hiei joined the Imperial Japanese Navy just as World War I was beginning. Even far from the main theaters of naval warfare, she represented a firm statement of Japan's technological prowess and ambition as she patrolled the Chinese coast alongside her sister ships, Kirishima and Haruna. As the conflict came to a close, Hiei's very existence was threatened by the ensuing efforts by the major powers to prevent such carnage from happening again. The Washington Naval Treaty of 1922 limited each nation's number and size of capital ships. With Japan forced to reduce its navy, it appeared Hiei might soon be scrapped before ever seeing combat. However, the Japanese were reluctant to see such a fine vessel go to waste. Having already proved her worth in a non-military role in 1923, when she performed vital rescue work after the Great Kanto earthquake wreaked havoc on Japan, she was converted into a demilitarized training ship. In order to comply with the treaty, her armor was removed, and she was stripped of most of her armament. Though safe from the breaker's yard, she was but a shadow of her former self. Yet, the Empire of the Sun would call her back into service soon enough. By the early 1930s, international tensions began to escalate once again. In September 1931, Japan invaded the Chinese province of Manchuria, a move vehemently condemned as illegal by the League of Nations. Japan abruptly withdrew from the League. This decisive action didn't just signal Japan's growing isolation, it shattered the constraints of the naval treaties that had long held the Imperial Japanese Navy in check. For Hiei, this heralded an unexpected resurrection. Free from limitations, the Imperial Japanese Navy set about restoring her to her former glory. The first phase of her reconstruction would take place from 1933 to 35, as her No. 4 turret and ammunition magazine were added once more, readying her for battle. Her rebirth was crowned by an honor beyond compare, selection as Emperor Hirohito's personal vessel. In a navy where imperial devotion reigned supreme, this wasn't merely a sign of renewed might, it was a divine seal of approval. In 1937, a second set of changes began. This time, the plan was not just to restore Hiei, but to reinvent her as a state-of-the-art floating fighting machine. New high-pressure boilers and improved turbines increased Hiei's output to an impressive 137,000 shaft horsepower, propelling her to speeds over 30 knots. This impressive velocity would allow Hiei to keep pace with aircraft carriers, meaning she would be able to escort them on future missions to assert Japanese dominance over the Pacific. Any vulnerabilities exposed in World War I were quickly addressed. The ship's main belt armor was thickened to 8 inches to defend her against shell fire. A whole new 4 inches of deck armor would protect Hiei from aerial bombings. Hiei's armament was also restored and improved. Her 8 14-inch guns were upgraded to elevate to 43 degrees, extending their range to over 25 miles. New fire control systems enhanced accuracy, making Hiei a true threat to any enemy vessel. What's more, Hiei's superstructure was rebuilt into a towering pagoda mast, bristling with fire control equipment and observation platforms. This distinctive silhouette, a prototype for the future Yamato-class battleships, made Hiei one of the most recognizable warships in the Imperial Japanese Navy. No longer a battle cruiser, in January 1940, the modernized Hiei emerged reclassified as a fast battleship, ready to dominate the increasingly tense Pacific waters. Her moment came on November 26, 1941. Departing Hirokapu Bay, Hiei formed a critical part of Vice Admiral Chiichi Nagumo's carrier striking force, tasked with escorting 6 aircraft carriers to deliver a crushing blow to the U.S. fleet at Pearl Harbor. For 11 days, Hiei plowed through heavy seas alongside Kirishima, maintaining a protective screen around the carriers. On December 7th, at 6 a.m., the order came, quote, "Climb Mountain Itaka." The attack was on. From her guard position, Hiei's crew watched in awe as 183 aircraft roared to life, rising into the air and banking towards Pearl Harbor. At 7:48 a.m., the first bombs fell. Hiei's radio room crackled with reports of destruction. Battleships burning, aircraft exploding, chaos reigning. As the last Japanese aircraft returned, Hiei stood ready to fend off any counterattack. Her crew knew they had participated in a world-changing event. The sleeping giant of the United States had been awakened, and the full might of its power would soon be turned against Japan. The epic naval struggle of the Pacific War was about to begin, with Hiei poised to play a significant role. In the wake of Pearl Harbor, Hiei's guns remained hot as Japan's expansion accelerated. February 1942 saw the battleship steaming south, her 14-inch guns primed to support the invasion of the Dutch East Indies. As Japanese troops stormed ashore on Java and Sumatra, Hiei patrolled offshore, her imposing silhouette a deterrent to any Allied naval intervention. But it was during the audacious Indian Ocean raid of April 1942 that Hiei truly flexed her muscles. Sailing alongside her sisters, Kongo, Haruna, and Kirishima, Hiei formed a formidable shield for Vice Admiral Nagumo's carriers. On April 5th, as Japanese aircraft pummeled the British naval base at Colombo, Ceylon, Hiei's crews stood at battle stations, ready to repel any counterattack. Their vigilance paid off 2 days later, when lookouts spotted the British heavy cruisers HMS Cornwall and HMS Dorsetshire attempting to escape. Hiei's float planes helped pinpoint the cruiser's position, allowing Japanese dive bombers to swoop in and send both ships to the bottom, along with over 400 British sailors. As part of Admiral Nobutaka Kondo's invasion force, in June 1942, she sailed toward Midway Atoll. The plan was for Hiei and other surface ships to bombard the island following the carrier airstrikes. However, American codebreakers had deciphered Japanese plans, allowing the U.S. Navy to set up an ambush. On June 4th, American dive bombers caught the Japanese carriers by surprise, sinking 4 of them in a single day. With the carriers lost, the invasion was called off. Hiei and the rest of the surface fleet withdrew, having never fired a shot in anger. The Battle of Midway marked a turning point in the Pacific War, shifting the balance of power decisively in favor of the Allies. As for Hiei, her role in the war was about to change dramatically. No longer would she sail confidently with a powerful carrier force. Instead, she would soon be thrust into desperate battles against an increasingly dominant Allied navy. Following the disaster at Midway, Hiei was reassigned to the newly formed Third Fleet under Vice Admiral Chiuchi Nagumo. In August 1942, she sailed south to support Japanese operations around Guadalcanal during the American landings on the island. Over the next few months, Hiei participated in several actions in the Solomon Islands. She provided distant cover during the Battle of the Eastern Solomons in August and the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands in October. Under the command of Rear Admiral Hiroaki Abe, on November 10, 1942, Hiei set sail for Guadalcanal from Truk alongside her sister ship, Kirishima, and 11 destroyers. Their mission was to clear the way for a major Japanese troop convoy sent to retake the island. Hiei and Kirishima were to bombard the strategically vital Henderson Field Air Base, built by the Japanese but captured by the Americans in August. In preparation, the 2 ships' 14-inch guns were loaded with anti-aircraft shells. However, the element of surprise was lost days before the operation began. American reconnaissance aircraft had spotted the Japanese fleet, allowing the U.S. Navy to prepare a response. Rear Admiral Daniel J. Callahan stood ready to meet the threat with 8 destroyers, 3 light cruisers, and 2 heavy cruisers. As midnight passed on November 13th, Abe's force approached Guadalcanal under the cover of darkness, oblivious to the proximity of the enemy. At 1:24 a.m., they were spotted by the American light cruiser USS Helena. For 20 agonizing minutes, both sides cautiously maneuvered in the black night, neither willing to reveal themselves to the enemy. Meanwhile, Abe frantically ordered his men to change the anti-aircraft shells in Hiei's 14-inch guns back to their original ones. The naval Battle of Guadalcanal was about to begin. At 1:50 a.m., Hiei finally shattered the night with her searchlights and opened fire. Soon enough, she was locked in a duel with USS Monson, eventually eliminating the destroyer with 39 hits, including 3 from her 14-inch guns. Yet no sooner had Monson begun to slip below the waves that several American ships arrived to avenge her. Hiei now found herself as the U.S. fleet's #1 target, her imposing figure too tempting for American gunners to ignore. American destroyers, dwarfed by the battleship, closed to perilously close ranges. USS Laffey found herself a mere 20 feet from Hiei's towering hull, her 5-inch guns inflicting severe damage on the battleship's superstructure. Shells even hit Hiei's bridge, wounding Admiral Abe and claiming the life of his chief of staff, Captain Masakane Suzuki. Yet, determined to stand her ground, Hiei took her revenge with brutal efficiency, a single 14-inch shell crippling Laffey. As Hiei drew the bulk of American fire, her sister ship, Hiroshima, capitalized on the distraction. Hiroshima's guns found USS San Francisco, resulting in the demise of Admiral Callahan, leaving the American force leaderless. Meanwhile, Hiei continued taking critical damage. Shell from San Francisco smashed into her steering machinery, leaving the mighty battleship an unmanageable wreck. Nevertheless, despite the U.S. Navy's best efforts, she simply refused to sink. Despite her valiant performance, by 2 a.m., Hiei's situation had grown increasingly difficult. Her superstructure was in ruins, and fires raged unchecked. Admiral Abe was left with little choice but to order a withdrawal. Although Hiei's jammed rudder meant she could only sail in circles, miraculously, she managed to escape the combat zone. At the first light of dawn, the true extent of Hiei's wounds became alarmingly clear. Hiei had been struck by at least 85 8-inch, 6-inch, and 5-inch shells, countless smaller shells, as well as various torpedoes. While reports vary about how many of these actually exploded, there was no doubt that Hiei was in deep trouble. Yet, incredibly, she remained afloat. But there would be no time for repairs. Now, Hiei faced a new threat, this time from the skies. All through the morning and afternoon, waves of U.S. torpedo bombers and dive bombers from Henderson Field and the carrier USS Enterprise pounced on the wounded battleship, determined to send her to a watery grave. Though she took several more torpedo hits and bomb strikes, Hiei stubbornly kept fighting through 70 American sorties, using her remaining anti-aircraft guns to defend herself as best she could. By 5:30 p.m., Vice Admiral Abe had finally had enough, giving the order to abandon ship. With the surviving sailors evacuated, the Japanese made the reluctant decision to do what the Americans had failed to, and commit her to her final resting place on the ocean floor. As night fell, Hiei was scuttled, vanishing beneath the waves, along with 188 members of her valiant crew. Hiei was the first Japanese battleship to be sunk in World War II, a symbolic blow to the Imperial Japanese Navy. Her destruction, along with that of her sister ship, Hiroshima, 2 days later, helped secure Allied control of the waters around Guadalcanal. For decades after the war, the location of Hiei's wreck remained unknown. However, on February 6, 2019, nearly 77 years after her sinking, Hiei's remains were finally located. The research vessel RV Petrel, part of the late Paul Allen's deep-sea exploration initiative, discovered Hiei lying upside down in approximately 3,200 feet of water northwest of Savo Island. The finding of Hiei's wreck provided closure to a long-standing maritime mystery and offered new insights into her final battle. Images from the wreck site showed her upturned hull, still bearing scars from the intense battle she endured. Her discovery serves as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by sailors on all sides during World War II. Dark Seas extends its gratitude to Invideo AI for sponsoring this video. Remember, Invideo AI is standing by to become your first mate for content creation. Navigate to the link in the description now to try out Invideo AI's current version for free, with paid plans starting at just $20 a month. And don't forget to use our code DARKSEAS50 to double your creative fuel. Captain your own fleet of stunning videos and conquer the waves of online content with Invideo AI today.